Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be continuing on from the last video and I'm going to be showing you how to create the ramp in Revit. So to start with, before we actually build the ramp, we're going to be creating model lines. These don't serve any function in Revit, they're just there for reference to help us draw the ramp the way we want it, because sometimes it can get a little tricky to edit the ramp after you've already made it. So we're going to try to get it as accurate as we can the first time we draw it, which is also why you want to have these dimensions ready to go before you start drawing the ramp. So to start with, I'm going to be creating one just long horizontal line all the way across. And this horizontal line is going to represent the center of the ramp. So we're going to pretend that this is the center of this ramp right here. And next thing we're going to do is, since this ramp is 8 feet in width, I want to offset this, and I want a 4 feet offset because it'll be 4 feet on each side. So I'm going to do one below and one above. There, now we have what represents our total ramp. And now next, if you see our drawing, we have our diagonal portion in front of here. This is 6 degrees. So we're going to be starting by creating this top line right here, or the edge of the front ramp. So let's go back to model lines. I'm just going to click where it starts, which is there. You may notice that that's not right to start with, but we can always edit the dimensions here. So I'm going to click this line. Once you click that line, all these dimensions will be able to edit. So I'm going to click here, make that 6 degrees. And then I want this length to be 90.1, because that's the, 90.2, that's the total length. And there, now we have our side length to start with. Then next I can just offset this again. And then I want to offset this middle one again. And there we go, that's done. And I also want to move this line so that it's connected to the center line right here. Make sure you just click the dot and not the whole line, because you can move the whole line by accident. Control Z to undo. I just want to move this dot, because this is just for reference later on when we design our bridge. And this is our starting point. It's not meant to look pretty. This is all going to be hidden once we're done. It's just there for reference for when we draw our ramp. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to be changing the elevation of the top of the ramp, because to create the ramp, we're basically setting it so that it's going from level 1 to level 2, but we need to make sure that right now it's high enough. So if we go to the east elevation, any elevation view will do, you'll see that it's automatically set to 10 feet, but based on the dimensions we were given for the Kennedy Bridge, it's 16 feet high. So we just click on elevation 2, click on the dimensions, and we type in 16 feet, and there we go. Now we can start drawing in the ramp. So we can start by clicking on the ramp tool. And you notice that with these model lines, it won't really hatch onto a specific intersection point, but it can hatch onto a line. And I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right angle, so I'm just going to click here. Start with, doesn't have to be exact because we're going to be changing the dimensions later. So I'm just going to click anywhere. You notice that I clicked 4 times there, because when you're drawing a ramp, you're going to draw the length or the angled part, then you're going to skip over the flat part, then you're going to go to the next angled part, and then I stopped here at the line, although it's actually going to be going a little bit past the grid line, but again, we're going to be changing that later. Right now, what we just want to make sure is that we have the right number of angled slopes and flat parts in the whole bridge. So now I'm going to go to the horizontal part up here, just continue on where we left off, click here. Now you can see it's going to snap onto intersection grid lines. So we're going to keep clicking each of these nodes all the way across the bridge. You'll notice that the actual bridge part will stop at 30 feet, but that's okay. We're going to be changing that later. That's just the default setting in Revit, but it can be longer than that. Okay, and that is our finished ramp. For now, we still have to edit a lot of it, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull it back up again. Edit sketch. So the first thing you notice is that it's not at 8 feet right now. The default is 3, but we can go ahead and change that to 8. I don't know. Yes, there we go. Now that's 8 feet. And I'm going to change the dimensions here. So first thing that you notice is if we go back to our original sketch, that is 18 feet there. That's just a whole flat part. So I'm going to go ahead and just click and drag it over so it intersects with that grid line. And this should be 9 feet because it's right in the center. This should always be in the center of the 2 edges of the ramp. Now I can change the dimensions here. So this I want to be aligned See, I want this dot here to connect with that line right there. So I can edit the dimension here, or I can try to drag it. Sometimes I can get a little bit fidgety because this is an unusually shaped ramp. There we go, now that's where we want it. But you notice that you'll see, excuse me, there's these lines right here where, see, there's like a line here and a line here. They don't connect with this perpendicular line here. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag this over so it connects with that. And I'm going to do the same here. And I'm just going to do this all the way down the line here. So if we go back to our sketch, that's 38.75 feet. So I can edit this dimension, 38.75. And I'm going to move this line over again. Make sure it's always centered. That little triangle might pop up. That just means it's a midpoint, and that's where we want it. Or a square. That just means it's also an endpoint. You can click, just drag the cursor around, make sure that everything that's highlighted is connecting properly. There's nothing, no lines in the middle here that we're missing. Then next we have this here. That's 4.95. Then I'm going to go here, that's 46.5. I can go ahead and click on the dot, drag it out. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on the cursor and select everything just to make sure that there's no lines. That's just for me checking. It's just so that looks right. So now I can go up here to the top part. I'm going to check these. So far everything already looks right. But if we go here, you see that that's not connecting to that grid line like we want it. So I'm going to drag that here. Drag all the corresponding lines to the right places. See, it's easy to edit the dimensions of ramp, but what can be difficult is when you want to add another section. If you want to add another angled part here at the bottom, like make this longer, add a flat section and angle, that's where it can get tricky. But as far as editing dimensions, it's not terribly difficult. Okay, and that should be the finish ramp. So I'm going to click the check mark. You might get some warnings because of this right here. It doesn't like this angle right here, but we're going to change that in a later video. And if we go to the 3D view, you can click this house right here at the top, or you can click 3D views right here, but I'll just start by clicking the house. And, well, it just shows us the model lines right now. It doesn't show us the ramp, but if we change the detail level to fine, and sometimes that doesn't work either, and if it does, we can click reveal hidden elements, and you'll see the ramp there, because ramps usually aren't used as like major parts of a building. Revit isn't used to building bridges, so what we can do is I'm going to highlight everything. I'm going to click unhide. Then I'm going to click this again to undo that. And there we go. Now we have our ramp. I'm going to change this from wireframe to shaded. And there we go. Now we have our ramp. You'll see there's like the thickness right there. We can change that. And here it'll automatically have a railing. We're going to be editing the railing in a later video, but as far as editing the ramp, we can change the thickness, the material, which I'll show you now. If we go to this sketch, you can see that, yes, the ramp is 0.7 feet thick. So I'm going to click on the ramp. I'm going to click Edit Type. Then I'm going to duplicate this to ramp 2 so we don't override the default. And the thickness will be 0.75 feet or 9 inches. Click OK. There we go. Now we've just made the ramp thicker. So something you notice about this ramp is that we didn't have to calculate any individual slopes for each of these heights here. It automatically calculates them based on the total height of the ramp, because if we click on ramp, you'll see it'll go base level, level 1, top level, level 2. So all these slopes and heights are automatically calculated based on this, which is what makes the ramp tool very easy to use.